easier for KC because you need to create some magic as Fnatic in the early game, because you don't have this traditional, you know, everyone is winning, we're gonna rock up to mid game, we have the tools to win. No, we have the tools to win, but early game is gonna be rough. So that's why, for example, for KC's playstyle, it makes a lot more sense to go into the mid game even and then just be totally fine.
That's where I'm wondering how it's gonna work for Fnatic, because not a lot of agency in the laning phase, but you still have a composition that wants to dive. Are you gonna be able to find those dive opportunities if the early game doesn't go that well?
I mean, you're gonna have to, and you will. Like, there'll be an objective, there'll be a fight where they will rock up, and yeah, maybe they're too far behind, maybe, but they'll lose. But that's where mechanics will come into play as well, because you have a draft that can facilitate one good pick can turn into a good fight, even at a deficit.
And exactly, and I'm looking at these skirmishes or the way it would happen around the objectives. I'm not looking at traditional laning phase, I'm looking at lane swaps, where Oscar will roam from the top lane because he will get the prio and look to impact the map from the early stages of the game, because I don't think in traditional laning phase you're going to be able to get a lot of leads as Fnatic.
No, but this is also the sort of draft where I want to see KC have leveled up. Vedi, you were talking about the stats, the combined kills we saw earlier as well in our ready check. For KC, it's very low. It's 2 at 14 minutes, right? 2.4, something like that. This is a draft where you would like that to be a bit higher, because you get to dictate it, because you get to push out lanes, you get to push Razork out of his own jungle, something that Fnatic is very reliant on, having Razork as a stable man that can back up the lanes. You swap him out of the puzzle, suddenly that's a lot harder for Fnatic.
This is a draft that gives you a lot of recovery as well for KC. Going into the later stages of the game, you have a lot of tools to make this teamfight work.
Absolutely, and I think that these level 6s are going to be crucial for Fnatic specifically, because when we think about Wukong as a champion, he's not someone that has the best early game setups. He's someone that works well with the tools that he has once he gets those levels. And this is the combo that Fnatic is going to need to find. Whereas KC's whole game plan is very much like, we're going to deny you that combo and we're going to rely on our individual talents. And I only think back to 2 weeks ago when I was on the desk with Odoamne, and one of the big credits that he gave to KC was their traditionally solid laning phase. While we haven't consistently seen it with a champion like this, I'm expecting them to have it today.
What are we looking for in the early game here? We said that it was all eyes on jungle. Who do we think is going to strike her? Who we think is going to have the most space to get things going in the early game?
I'm not known to back down for predictions, so I'm still going with KC.
Still going with KC. We are going back in game right now. Let's see how the early game goes for Fnatic, and let's see if KC can find those team fights to clutch that game. Casters, over to you finally for game 1.
Thank you so much to the analyst desk. Great breakdown of how these drafts are going to interact with each other as we get onto Summoner's Rift for the first game of this best of 5. Early game prio lanes is what it feels like it's all about here. Yike so good at playing when his lanes get ahead.
Yeah, I think KC here, they have a fantastic draft for the early game. They have a winning mid, winning bot. I think Canna will just be chilling on this Cassante. But the question I ask is really, how can Caliste and Targamas show up against Upside and Mikyx in a winning matchup? And how can Yike play around that to either get an individual lead or a lead for his bot lane?
I was seeing Caliste opting in towards the on-hit build, so a lot of focus is going to be on him to be that consistent DPS as this game goes on. And look at that Fnatic side, but here we go.
Oscarinin caught out there, was waiting in a bush. Will it take some damage from Canna and from Yike? It's not going to be too much. Oscarinin, if he does level a skill, can just dash away, as used it earlier on. Canna gets him down to about 300 HP. Not going to be the easiest early laning phase here for Oscar, because not only does he have to be worried about Canna with that Q3, there's always the possibility Yike looks for an early gank towards that top lane to burn a flash.
Yeah, and since Zhao being so much stronger than the Wukong in this early game just means that all the laners of Fnatic have to play a little bit more reserved, a little bit more scared. That's already KC here getting some good trades in the bot side.
You can see both of the AD carries the key focus for these bot lanes. Chip them away, get as much damage down on them as possible. Mikyx does have that triumphant roar to heal up a little bit after 7 minions are killed in the lane, but Caliste and Targamas currently have control of the wave state, which means they will hit that level 2 first.
But a relatively decent first level here from Fnatic's bot lane, as they're going to be... Oh, Canna might be in trouble.
The Q3, but he might just be dead. He's going to hold the flash. Oscar needs another. Oh! He flashes over it, but Canna can flash away. Oscar on the chase. What cooldowns does he have? Not enough's the answer. Flash for flash in top lane.
Huge trades in the top side. It looks like Oscarinin living off the crowd a little bit here. Not quite able to get the kill, but certainly stamping control on this top side.
And during all of that, it's Canna who ends up bleeding a lot of minions, as now Oscar TP's back, and you see it's 7 to 7 minions. But Oscar's going to catch a huge wave here. And brilliant early game from Oscar.
Also sets up for a perfect freeze. You can see Canna had to go ward because Razork cleared towards this top side, so Canna needs to get this wave shoved in or else he's in a really awkward spot.
Yeah, with no flash, it's a lot of threat even with this ward. If Razork just walks up, then Canna has to drop minions.
Razork here on his home stage in Madrid. Oscar, just that little kid from Catalonia, proving that he can punch with the best. One of the best top laners in our league is Canna. Razork's on his way. Canna has no flash, but dashes and gets himself to relative safety.
The thing is, though, Oscarinin still just has so much control of the wave. Just the fact that you get to show your face is all that you really need to do here. So for Fnatic, that's kind of put a little bit of control on that top lane. And now we get to see what Razork has in store, because he now needs to try and keep himself in check with Yike and make sure that Yike isn't actually interrupting the rest of those lanes on the map.
And Oscarinin in this game really feels so pivotal for Fnatic, as it's the one lane that they really can play through and really pressure KC on. And so far, Oscar is playing fantastically to that win condition.
We talked about his evolution over summer. I think Oscar has always been maligned as a top laner for Fnatic, seen as the weak link of the team. And I don't think he has yet stood out of that shadow, but I think he is taking steps to begin to show just what he can do in top.
Yeah, I mean, if you win against Canna, that's a pretty big step.
We got to see it on his picks like the Aurora, where he had a fantastic game. On the Rec side, he's starting to pick up some wins. So I think it really is starting to see maybe the tides turning in favor of him. Mikyx not quite able to land the pulverize. You can see once more Fnatic getting antsy once their junglers on their side of the map.
Look at the vision coming out from KC, though, knowing that Razork was on the top side. If we actually just do a quick mini-map zoom here, you can see a couple of wards near the blue buff, near the Wolf camp. Razork is going to be spotted through his entire reclear of his jungle.
Yeah, really good vision setup here from KC's bot lane. Makes it really easy for not just them to play, but the entire map of KC. As you can play so much more aggressive, as KC are here.
They're going to pop the heal. They get the Winter's Bite onto Upset. Mikyx with the headbutt back will use their own heal. Takes a piercing arrow through his back, but he'll be okay. Wave not in a good spot at all for Fnatic.
I'm curious if they're just trying to collapse that first, our top wave, and then be able to reset and move people into the position that they want to. There's the reset from the AD carries. Do they go for a lane swap here, or what's the plan? Doesn't look like it.
Looks like they just go back to the bot side as the wave is still slightly frozen. Targamas is going to look to stay here and hold it, as Mikyx is trying to break the wave no matter what, but he can't quite do it.
He can't stay around any longer as well, because there's the risk that Yike just comes and ganks, right? With concussive blows from the Braum, if you're on vision, it's going to be so tricky for that Alistar to escape the situation. They will go on to Targamas, get the knockup, look for the trample stun here as well. They'll land that with a break back from Targamas. He can just back to Yike. Didn't use the stand beside me, jumps back onto Upset, who's just come back into the lane and has already lost half of his HP.
It's a complete disaster for Fnatic. The wave is frozen and they come back to it just to get chunked and recalled again. Now Caliste can start to slow push this wave, and it's already a 9 CS lead at 6 minutes, and that's just going to keep growing as Caliste keeps staying ahead in tempo.
And that's why I was kind of surprised to see Mikyx stick around for so long. He's not running the unsealed spellbook, so when you look at Targamas, he's able to swap to the TP, he now moves in towards mid lane, and is going to be able to link up with Yike, whereas Mikyx, he's got to plot his way along through that mid lane and try and catch up.
Razork does land the smite on the Scuttle Crab there. You could see KC reacting to the fact that they had spent a lot of time around that bot side, realizing where's Razork going to go? Well, he's pathing to top, likely to look for a gank on Canna, who was one level behind the Oscarinin at that point.
I think that's the one nice thing there, that Upset and Mikyx bought for Razork was that little bit of time wasted from Yike. So therefore Razork now has a slight lead in the jungle, which is especially nice when you're playing a champion like the Wukong. Really just want to get to that level 6, and he's already nearly there.
Yeah, especially with the dragon on the bottom side, you got options here for Fnatic. Could end up moving over towards that objective and net themselves that first dragon of the game, or with a minute until that rift held, maybe with the push on bot, they just want to try and reset and look for the void groups.
With the perfect information that we have, dragon is a great play, because you can already see Caliste is pathing towards top side, so you know you're going to have a man advantage down towards this bottom side if you do go for that Drake. However, Fnatic don't know that until Caliste shows on this wave.
Well, it's also the fact that Upset is essentially a full level behind his counterpart in Caliste. Caliste is going to hit to that level 6, so I think just trying to avoid any sort of matchup against the enemy AD carry at this stage is your best bet. And at least Oscarinin has a little bit of a buffer, as he did win out in the early stages. He's got a nice little CS lead for himself, so he might have to tank some of that in favor of Upset in a little bit.
I think even this game as Fnatic, the awkward thing though is that you really want to do Drake right now as Razork, but you have all your top camp spawning. So if you do decide to go for that Drake, then Yike can just invade your top side with the top prio, and suddenly he falls so far behind. So he's kind of left in this checkmate here where he's forced to clear topside, and now Upset is laning against Canna, but Fnatic are not going to get an advantage on any lane.
Yeah, Canna will be really happy about this as well, was losing that 1v1 in the top lane. Now Oscarinin has to deal not only with the piercing arrows, the long-range damage that comes out from the Varus, but whenever he gets close, you've got concussive blows immediately ready to proc on you. You need to be dashing in and out. We're going to play around the grubs right now. Mikyx does have a good flank position. Smite comes out from Yike to secure that first grub. Fnatic backing away from it for now. Oscarinin starting to poke his nose down towards the river. Second grub will go over to KC, who continue to control the river. Fnatic are still looking for this fight, but with the recall coming out from Mikyx, they just give up all 3 grubs.
Yeah, you can see the push on bottom lane meant that Canna was able to roam up towards that mid lane.
Caliste headbutted across the wall. Looking for the pulverize here from Mikyx. Is Razork going to flash forward for it? Has the Cyclone. It's a Tempest for Caliste, but the heal comes out and he uses the barrier. Piercing arrow through Razork. They dive back in. The hero's entered from Poby, trying to save the fight, but he's interrupted. Yike goes low. Oscar takes him. Mikyx trying to 1v1 the enemy AD carry. Just under his knees. The public execution is delayed. Oscarinin can't find his mark.
Oscar holds the public execution for too long, and Caliste gets out with 2 kills for KC.
Centimeters, millimeters separated Oscarinin from that play, but KC are able to turn it back. And it starts with a nice play here from Mikyx, thinking, hey, we can isolate Caliste. Razork flashing over to guarantee that he can get into range, but with Yike in the area able to come up, and Oscarinin not quite able to get into range fast enough, thanks to that knockback from the Xin Zhao ultimate. It means that then they're able to escape.
But Oscarinin holds his ulti here for so long, he decides to instead kill Yike first, which leads to him being a little bit too late.
Very, very good. Keep it up.
And KC are happy. I think Oscar is not happy, although I couldn't really hear him.
It's a game of inches. It's a game of millimeters in a case like this, and Oscar just short. And if you got that kill, imagine.
I think Mikyx would have survived. This
Mikyx
just
survived.
Really changes the whole outcome.
It really does. You probably get to set up around the dragon first. You also get about a 700 gold lead on your Ambessa, who is one of your key points for this composition to work.
But it also means that Oscarinin, that level advantage starting to diminish for him. He doesn't really have as much control as he did in that top side. Blade of the Rune King, very close to being completed for Caliste, and he's just getting so much help from KC. Everyone on this bottom side looking for a potential dive.
It's again KC that have way better lane assignments, as Targamas gets pretty chunked, but it's still a huge advantage for KC as they keep racking on these plates, and it's Canna just chilling 1v1 against Upset without Oscar being really able to extend this lead whatsoever.
Okay, let's take a breath, let's take a moment, let's evaluate what's happened so far. We're 11 minutes into the game, and we knew KC had the lanes that on paper should be winning. Have they been? Top lane has gone towards Oscarinin with that great freeze early game. Bot lane has gone very handily towards Caliste and Targamas. Mid and jungle relatively even, 100, 200 gold here or there. This is kind of what we expected when we were in the draft. I think the question is, can Fnatic begin soon to turn the tides in their favor?
I think it was because Fnatic had kept it so much within touching distance and then over-forced plays, which then gave KC those angles to come back into it. Now, you can look at the top of your screen and see, hey, it's only a 600 gold lead. It's not a massive amount. It is not insurmountable for Fnatic. It's just that you're giving a lot of control to KC in these early stages when it comes specifically towards objectives.
Yeah, for me the worry isn't so much about the gold lead, it's about when you're able to get both Dragon and 3 grubs in the early game. It just speaks volumes how much control you have all over the map. And it's really hard for Fnatic to leverage that control back if they don't get back up in tempo and they can actually have the lane assignments that they need, because I'm just seeing Oscar laning 1v2 repeatedly, and maybe now with Caliste being forced to base here, Oscar can push out, Upset can base, they can finally get the lane assignments they want.
Oscar into Canna is what Fnatic want, and not something we really would have expected coming into this series. Canna, the golden boy of KC in many ways. This guy so consistently getting leads in that top lane. Oscar struggling to do the same for his team, partly because the team hasn't played around him too much, but also partly because when it does come down to those minutiae, those tiny things that really affect the game, sometimes he just misses out.
Yeah, I mean, Canna is a monster, but in this game he's really been punished by Oscar, and I think now with Caliste basing, Oscar got another 2 plates. He finally got that 700 gold lead you were talking about earlier, Medic. And Upset is actually silently kind of coming back into this game. It's only a 6 years lead now. Mikyx goes in on Targamas.
Targamas does have 6 heroes. Entrance coming down as well. The Glacial Fissure won't do anything as skids him in KC as Targamas is split from the team and Fnatic pounce.
Great pick from Fnatic, and this was something that we saw from KC in their series against Vitality, where Vitality were just finding these moments where Targamas separated himself a little bit too much for the team, and they were able to punish. And now Fnatic with Mikyx are able to find that pick once more.
And you can see the power of the Galio. He's always able to move first and support the team. And despite the language barrier, it doesn't matter. He just pressed the ulti and he's there. Very fast. Muy rápido.
Muy rápido, indeed. As we see Yike actually stepping around here, but he doesn't realize he's surrounded! Yike, there are 3 people who are preying on your demise. Yike survived so long, shielded as well by Canna! KC collapsed perfectly. The TP behind by Poby as he looks for a bit more movement. A 3-man corner after diving in, that's 2 down! KC lose 2. Canna trying to escape, goes all out, dives back on the Upset, but he's knocked in the air and taken out! A double for Oscar in Madrid!
And just like that, Fnatic punch back against KC. It looked dire, but Upset comes in and with the help of his team, turns it back around.
And Fnatic are willing to pull the trigger and then double down on it. Even after Razork dies, Upset says, no, we keep fighting. Poby TP's in, they're able to clean it up, and finally, some life of air for Fnatic here in the series.
And I think you've hit it there, nail on the head, Jack. It's the fact that Fnatic are still willing to go for these plays. The first time around it doesn't work out, but they are constantly fishing for picks, for plays, bringing multiple members to these fights, and just like that, now swinging the gold lead in their favor. Fnatic looking to keep the pressure onto KC.
Yeah, and I feel like you have to give so much credit to Mikyx, because he's a player that's just always willing to go in. He doesn't care if he dies. Very like Hillesang-esque, just without so much int, and just the consistency is there, and it's such a pleasure to watch when he's on point.
There have been many times across his career that Mikyx has had as much int as Hillesang. At the moment, it's not one of those cases. He is a stalwart of European League of Legends, so often seen as the best support in the league. Over 2025, I think he has fallen down from that a smidge, only because of players like Alvaro who have begun to take that spot. Targamas challenging for it at times as well. KC, though, will use this tempo opportunity to take their 3rd objective of the game. Public execution! Oh my god! Oscarinin! He's taking names!
He said he was going to do a bomba, and that's what he's doing. 4-0 on the Ambessa. He's taking over.
And now it's Razork who can move down on towards this bottom side of the map as well if he wants to. Canna might be a little overextended. KC, we're setting up for that dive on the top side. Mikyx was just looking to cover, and Oscarinin stands up and is going to get so much off the back of this.
And the question for KC is a question we asked for Fnatic only 5 minutes ago. It was, can Fnatic begin to rein the game back into their control? Now you look on the other side and it's, can Karmine Corp stop this bleeding? They're 1.3k behind. They've lost their first neutral objective of the game in that dragon that Fnatic just took. And Fnatic have a composition designed to die. If you're KC, you need to survive through that initial punch. You need to survive the first haymaker. The question is, can they do so?
I mean, if Fnatic could pull this off, it instills so much confidence into them, because they're winning with Oscarinin being the main carry. This was a team that felt like if Upset wasn't ahead, if he wasn't the one leading the team, they couldn't do anything. So now with Upset having more of a passive role, just being that follow-up, if they can win like that, suddenly this team has so much more potential.
Yeah, there are still tools for KC to, again, find their way back into this game. Rift Herald in the pocket of Yike, he can try and use that to crack open some towers, get some much needed resources, especially into people like Caliste. And while Oscarinin did have that good play against Vladi, you're still having this Orianna getting into a decent spot, and she's gone for a pretty tanky build. So the ability for Fnatic to kind of go for that one-shot dive potential isn't going to be as easy on towards the Orianna. So I think for KC, moments like this where Vladi can get some alone time with the tower still, thanks to the control KC have on the top side, will help them get some gold into the carries.
Yeah, it's important to note that KC's mid and bot lane are still quite far ahead, and that their overall team comp is really, really great at receiving this initial engage from Fnatic. But what we need to see from KC is that they're the ones that are holding the vision first, so that's much easier and they don't get caught off guard, because if one member gets caught out, they're dead just like that.
And I think that member is going to be Caliste. I think there is just a bounty on his head every single team fight here. It is flashes from Mikyx. It is whatever this monkey can do with that pole to try and get into position of this AD carry. Everything is going to be looking for the Frenchman's head.
And we have seen two iterations of Caliste, I feel like. One Caliste that is so good at playing on that knife's edge, baiting out all the cooldowns, and just making a composition like Fnatic's so difficult to play. But then we've also seen Caliste that's way too cocky, way too overeager, and he's just the first person to die in a team fight. So we really need to see the best version of him today if he's going to be the one to show up and carry this game.
He's where the damage comes from. If Oscar is the protagonist for this crowd here in Madrid, Caliste is the villain. He is the guy that they do not want to see surviving for more than a nanosecond in all of these fights. Fnatic in control of the bot side, they'll take that bot tier 1. They also have Poby pushing in the top side to get more pressure on the map.
And that's the thing, KC look a little scared, if I'm going to be honest, lads. They end up over-indexing onto that bottom side to think, hang on, we need 4 members to defend. There's too many KC members on the bottom side. Poby pushes in top. You get the push in mid from upset. These free resets with 1:30 now until that dragon. I think KC are starting to feel the pressure a little bit from Fnatic themselves.
And are you going to feel pressure when you're playing against Fnatic and you're looking to qualify for Worlds? Because this team doesn't miss. 12 of 14 possible Worlds appearances over the last few years. They missed it in 2013 and in 2016. Those are the 2 times that they haven't managed to make it. The question is, can they do that? Can they continue that streak? Or will KC, claiming their first ever spot at Worlds, be the ones to deny them?
Yeah, Fnatic's just such an incredible historic org, and I think there's really 2 main problems that KC are facing. One is that wherever Oscar goes, it feels like they just need to concede. But the second is that when you're playing this sort of composition that's great at receiving engage, it typically lacks that much hard engage of its own. It's hard for KC now to be the ones to find that pick and find someone off guard because they don't have those tools available.
And I think Fnatic have identified that well, where instead of going for these big all-out engages, they're kind of playing this hit-and-run warfare, trying to get these towers, trying to pick away little bits of damage, seeing what they can do. But now KC is what we were talking about, the ability to use this Rift Herald, find their timing window on the map. And with 20 seconds until the Dragon now, Fnatic will have time to rally, but it's KC who can get control over mid and try and get into river first.
We can see how KC feel that they're so forced to group here. Canna even dropping all of this top wave. He's going to be able to catch a little bit of it, but now it's actually Oscarinin going to be able to keep pushing him in, always have moved towards this mid lane, and it's going to be so difficult for KC to ever contest this Dragon.
Yeah, you see how hard it is. They're being gated off ever entering through this bot side river. Just to correct myself, it was 2012, the Worlds that Fnatic missed, not 2013, as they start up the Dragon here. We'll only be their second of the game. If you're KC, I think you just accept it.
Yeah.
Who cares? We're still 10 minutes away from a soul. It won't be an Ocean Soul for Fnatic, which, when you're playing a one-punch comp like this, doesn't matter as much.
And let's be real, it hasn't been Dragons that have been the kryptonite of Fnatic. It's been the Attica. So there is still where Fnatic have to overcome some hurdles to show that they really have kind of grown up over the course of the last couple of weeks. Because that has been the objective that I am keenly keeping my eyes on coming into this one.
Yeah, and we got a little pause, unfortunately. But it's 2 items across the board for KC's carries here. Definitely a good choice to drop that Dragon, as now they're much, much stronger. Hopefully this pause won't be too long.
I think the important thing when we look at those 2 items is the Orianna has Seraph's Rod of Ages, not high damage. They are survivability and she will survive a long time, but it doesn't give you a huge amount of DPS. And the Varus has Ginsu's Blade of the Ruin King, which is good damage if you can ramp up a little bit. If you don't have actual time to get those auto attacks down, you just die before you can actually put too much damage down. The piercing arrows will still do work, but it's not going to be as powerful as something like a Spear Eclipse that we see on Oscarinin.
I think it's also just for guys like Canna, trying to protect Caliste in these fights is so difficult. There are so many bloody threats on Fnatic to try and keep off him. Like, Oscarinin's now in a great spot. The Triforce on the Wukong. Upset being able to shotgun himself into the back line. Trying to deal with all of these threats is going to be difficult. And sure, you'll have Targamas to try and help out, but as you say, I think for KC, protecting the President might be a bit difficult.
Yeah, I think it really depends if Oscar can get this third item. If he can get that death stance, I believe he's building into, I mean, it's so difficult to kill him, especially as you pointed out, Medic, with Vladi going this kind of low damage, magic damage build. It's a lot of physical damage on the side of KC, so once he has that armor completed, it's hard for me to picture a fight that Fnatic lose unless a big misplay happens.
The only thing I'm really looking for Oscar is it more valuable to get your Mercury Treads first and then finish the Death Dance for that little bit more tenacity when you dive in? Because you know you're going to be CC'd, you know the Braum's going to be sitting there. Do you need to get out of that stun a little bit quicker, or is Death Dance just too much of a power spike for what is still a fight that's probably a while away? We don't usually see Atakan started before we have a Drake next to it, so you can do both in one fell swoop.
I think in my mind, the way the fights will end up playing out is that Oscarinin ends up getting stunned as the entirety of KC is running away from Poby following up, right? So I think things like the Death Dance, when he's going to be taking a lot of fire over the top of it, is probably going to be more valuable. As he's able to just have Poby to keep him alive as everyone's retreating away in the stun. So maybe that can be enough, but either way, I think Fnatic have been doing a good job of playing out these side lanes. Like, I think this has actually been the most impressive part, is that Fnatic aren't, you know, over-indexing into certain plays. They're letting Oscarinin be strong in the side lane with Poby, using Mikyx as this connector with Razork to just lend them that strength. And KC have been forced to over-index into these side lanes to try and keep them safe, which is opening up Fnatic to get more control.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, Rob, that you might see KC constantly grouping and feel like it's a mistake. You see Canna now opening up towards his team, but it's because Fnatic are playing in such a way that they're kind of forced to do this if they want any semblance of control. Because now, when Oscar finally pushes out this top side here, then Canna is going to be forced to catch that, and then Fnatic will get full control. So if KC don't use this opportunity that they have before Oscar is pushed out, they don't get any semblance of control. But they're just full sending it, and they already started out like a...
Wow, they're doing it really quickly as well. Caliste damage absolutely off the charts here on the Atakan. He's currently soloing it. It's a little bit of vision for Fnatic just outside of the pit. Mikyx stepping forward, takes a chunk from Vladi. Oscarinin going back, probably has that Death Dance, going to TP down towards the bottom side. Fnatic are looking for the fight as KC begin to retreat. Caliste at half HP, flash away from Vladi. Mikyx engaged, doesn't quite hit the mark. And now Mikyx needs to run, flashes himself, shockwave down. A huge ultimately down as Oscarinin has to dash away. The engage from Razork. He finds all of Karmine Corp, and the walls come tumbling down around them. Already they've lost Targamas, they have to retreat. No flash on Caliste, no flash on Vladi. Yike and Canna might look for the steal. Oscarinin still trying to keep them at bay. Fnatic will claim the Atakan after an amazing engage from Razork.
And Razork in his home! He finds them all, he secures them, the Atakan. What a brilliant engage, I want to see it again.
Fnatic are coming alive in Madrid. And as you say, it was just perfect. Mikyx ends up taking so much focus from Vladi as the rest of KC trying to move down, but this buys Fnatic the space they need to come through. And Razork immediately, we called it onto Caliste, and that's exactly what Razork does. The follow-up from Poby, Fnatic are able to hit onto everyone and buy the space they need to secure the Atakan.
And you talked about it, Medic. Caliste needs to ramp up in team fights. I think Caliste did one auto attack there, maybe two. It's so difficult to play this Varus, and now you have to play the next 5 minutes without flash. It's a tough game for KC.
Both of their carries do not have the luxury of that summoner spell. They cannot just get themselves out of a precarious situation. And you look on the other side, Oscar has flash, Poby has flash, Upset has flash. The ability to die for Fnatic, because they have so many tools to do it, is still very much there.
And you have a minute until Baron.
Yep.
So both those flashes going to be down, and if Fnatic want to, they can try and set up for some of these ejectors. But again, it's the sideline play, and Canna's overextended.
Now, Oscarinin is just going to chunk him out. Razork coming in as well for that extra damage. Pathmaker in from Canna. Does have the flash and will use it to get away. The public execution chases him. Yike is here to try and respond. Redemption out. Canna trading in. The cyclone from Razork and TP coming in, as well as Poby looks to join the fray. Oscarinin flashing forward onto Yike, but in the end, the fight will dematerialize.
A little bit disjointed there for Fnatic. Felt like Oscar didn't really want to go in at first and ends up using the public execution. They end up TPing Poby in. So a bit of a mistake there. They're going to now be forced to all recall, catch waves, and be a little bit behind in tempo. And crucially, Oscarinin not having flash for this next team fight.
We will see if Fnatic do decide that they want to start up that Baron. It is their game. They are controlling it right now. KC still have tools in their toolkit. They have Pick with the Chain of Corruption. They have Yike who can dive in, Crescent Guard, and mitigate a huge amount of damage that comes out from Fnatic. But currently, that one punch, that haymaker we talked about from draft, is landing every single time for Fnatic.
I think starting Nash, though, is very risky for Fnatic. Because if you fail that one turn and KC can kite back, as Canna, I don't think an Alistar Galio can really kill this Cassandra, even though he's not the strongest. But they are going to help Poby here push out a little bit, and in return, KC will get some vision up towards that Nash. As Razork helps upset push in mid, and I really just think KC's are going to be forced to drop this Drake. Going to be hard to contest, still no flashes on Caliste and Vladi.
Yeah, it feels like KC are basically trying to pull Fnatic into this Baron area and say, hang on, Dragon's in just a couple second time. Fnatic should be in a position for it, but maybe we can try and force them to double check this Dragon before it kicks off, and it's lending Vladi space in this top half of the map. It looks like Fnatic not going to take the bait. Instead, they're going to make sure they do their due diligence, push out this mid wave, and now move over towards the objective.
And it's interesting because we have talked a lot through a Fnatic lens, because they've been in the lead. They are definitely in the advantage in this game. They control the pace. But if you take Oscarinin out of that, I look down and I see blue, 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 and a little bit of red at the bottom. If it is a 4v4 and Oscarinin isn't with Fnatic, KC still have a real shot at winning these fights. They just need to find the moment where Oscarinin isn't there.
There's a little blue wall for KC, but that red dot is hard to ignore in the top lane.
I think it's just also the execution for Fnatic is just so much easier, right? Like, we saw it there in the last engagement where Caliste went, I got to peace out. I can't be a part of this at all. And as long as Fnatic can continue to do that with flashes on Razork, flashes on Mikyx, it becomes very difficult for Caliste to play the game. And it's honestly something we saw in game number 1 from Vitality as well, where the Morgana was just putting pools down in front of Caliste with the Rileys and saying, right, try and play the game. You don't have any way of getting around this. And it feels like Fnatic have gone, okay, now we want to try and keep Caliste out of this game once more.
I do agree with you, Rob, but I also want to offer some opposition. Because in that Vitality game, it was very easy for them to make Caliste's life miserable. They just kind of had to spam their spells, and he got slowed down and couldn't move. But in this game, if Oscar messes up, misses the ulti, Razork doesn't quite reach, gets ulted, there are things that could easily go wrong, in which case they don't get that follow-up, and they just collapse and fall under the pressure of Braum and Zhao CCing them all.
That makes a lot of sense. The question is, will they manage to find that sort of fight? Will Karmine Corp actually be able to pull those tools out of Fnatic without getting caught themselves? Because we saw in the last fight, it looked a little bit like Oscar was caught around that Otacon. He was the one retreating, and then Razork used his tools to get onto that backline and really open up the battle. Feels like it's a game of vision, as it always is when you get to late game team fights in League of Legends. If Mikyx can find a flank, if Razork can find a flank, the game gets infinitely harder for Karmine Corp.
And I think for Fnatic, they'd love to be able to try and take down this mid lane turret, but it's really been a thorn in their side. Caliste has been able to sit underneath it, very easily clear out the waves underneath the turret, and KC have done a good job protecting their flanks with the vision as Fnatic try and set it up.
Still no flash here. Caliste is moving, but he might find Razork.
Yeah, Razork's looking to the chase onto Caliste. Oscarinin does have that public execution, won't chase any further, doesn't have a flash of his own. Healing up a little bit as he just clears out the wave there. Canna unable really to bash heads with this Ambessa, who is so accelerated in this game.
And I want to add on to what you said, Rob, because it might feel weird that KC is still able to hold this mid tower, but it speaks to some of the weakness of Fnatic's comp. They have incredible all-in, engage, and follow-up, but they have very limited range. They have very limited siege. So if they're not able to actually find that one person out, it's hard for them to really progress this game other than through dragons.
And we're at that point where the game for Karmine Corp feels like it needs to progress. You have a Drake up in 2 minutes. There's a Baron available for you too. You're at 3 items on your AD carry, 3 items on Vladi. Building that Lightning Jewel has it on his way to a little bit more penetration. But if you're KC and this is the game state for the next 2 minutes, you're then looking at Soul and Baron, and you don't really want to take that fight. Razork can just dash over the wall with his decoy. Just vying over vision. Oscarinin left to his own devices in the bot lane. Canna had a small window there where he could walk up, but no longer can. Has to go and answer that wave that begins to crash on the bot tier 2.
And I'm so happy that we see Upset going for this AP Kai'Sa build. You can see now that it leverages him so much more opportunities with this blue buff. He can actually be the one poking KC out and actually applying so much pressure. And it just makes this champion go from very one-dimensional, only diving in, to actually being able to play from range, play it a little bit slow, and the scaling as well. Once Upset gets this 4th or 5th and 6th item, he's going to be completely unleashed.
Just a minute now until that dragon comes up, and it feels like the resets to start as they come through are just going to be tough. I mean, Poby now going to be able to finish off that Zhonya's Hourglass, making him incredibly potent on these dives. Follow up for the likes of Razork. It has to be protect the backline of KC. And with KC at least matching the resets, they should be able to get control over this mid wave, push out through that mid, move in towards this bot side river, and try and push Fnatic back, because the worst possible case for KC here is Fnatic having full control of this river.
Trying to walk into darkness, walk into fog of war when you are the team that needs to be slightly on the back foot when a fight begins is so tricky. Caliste realizing that he is enemy #1, is building towards the Jack show here on the Varus, has the Terminus, which partners so well with it, that ability to get the extra resistances through stacking up those auto attacks. A Seekers for Upset could be pivotal in the next fight. Canna's the one to step in here. Poby's pushing through top. Someone's going to have to answer that wave. Targa, Vladi, and Canna all have TPs, but I don't think it will be the Braum on wave clearing duty. It's going to be either Vladi or Canna. TP coming out from Poby. The Drake has spawned. Fnatic might look to just get the mid lane prio, sacrifice a little bit of pressure around the dragon to take that tier 1 that still stymies them, stops them from pushing as far as they'd like.
KC are aware that Razork is somewhere on this bottom side of the map because they spot him out with a ward, but they don't know exactly where he is. But
Oscar to Yike, that's a chunk. Oscar, public execution, stops the knockback, but now he's caught out. Targamas looking for the chase. Mickey with the heal to try and heal him up. Oscarinin still has the flash, but he's stunned. The Glacial Fisher follows him. And Vladi finds his man, the Ocean Drake, secured by Fnatic. KC Judas called for the Baron immediately. Target's going to base, but he still has that teleport.
And that's the thing, KC can still move over towards the objective with the ability to come back in towards the play. Fnatic now need to find a way into the pit. Razork has flash in Madrid. Can he be the hero for Fnatic here?
This is where the game will be decided, folks. As KC taking this Nash, let's see if Razork can do it.
Little bit of vision next to where Razork is, but none in that bush. Path maker from Canna finds two. Poby and Mikyx kept at bay. Razork trying to get into the pit, but they do not know how low this Baron currently is. Razork, the auto goes onto him. The knock-up as well, and Canna dives in. The Baron speaks French, it seems. Canna separates Razork from his ability to get into the Baron, and KC secure the objective.
And the villain wasn't Caliste, it was Canna who denies Razork from entering the pit. He sacrifices his own life, and KC finally gets so much back in this game, but they're still up against an Ocean Soul.
And after praising Oscarinin so much in this game, it's a mistake from him that ends up costing Fnatic the most. He thought he could find that play onto Vladi, but KC were in a better position. And now with that Baron, KC can do some serious damage to the standing gold of the map.
And the question is, can they? I think, right? Because you have 4 Baron buffs. You don't really have split push pressure. Your side lane threat isn't there. You are going to need to group up, but we already only have 2 minutes left on that Baron buff. And Fnatic have enough wave play to defend. So is it just a delay, or can we see KC actually using those Baron buffed minions to find some more pressure? There's no tier 1s for them to get. They need to start stepping further into Fnatic's side of the map, which is risky when you have the ability to re-engage from Fnatic.
I think it's difficult. You can see KC, they're trying to push out sides, but wherever they go, Oscar's in the opposite, pushing them in. And now Canna will be forced to catch this top wave, and it kind of just resets this whole tempo as Vladi is too scared to try to push in bot. And I think this Nash, it buys them time, it buys them opportunity, but it doesn't give them anything more than that.
And now, at least it should be a little bit of time before any of these objectives spawn, but that's the TP behind. They want to try and go for the play here. Vladi looking for Oscarinin.
Oscarinin caught out a little bit here. Caliste beginning to collapse. Perfect execution on Targamas. Oscarinin able to dash away, still has his flash. Uses the movement speed from the Shadow Crab as well. And extricates himself from what could have been an eviscerating situation.
Still, I love the plays from KC, trying to find these moments where Fnatic are overextended. It was picks in the early game that got Fnatic into this position, and now it's KC who want to try and turn it back. 50 seconds on the Baron, though. It looks like this will be the last little push that KC can do.
I gotta say, Oscar imped a bit on the mid lane, but he redeemed himself with that one, because that was a beautiful escape from him, and I love the confidence he's playing with today. Even after a mistake, he's still willing to go deep, to push out, and to make plays like that. He feels like a different player today.
Take a breath, guys. I have a sneaking suspicion, an inkling of a feeling that we're going to be waiting about 2.5 minutes and we're going to have an Elder fight decide game one of this best of 5 with not only Worlds but pride on the line. You can feel how much this means not only to the teams but also to the Blue Wall and the Fnatic Dragons sitting in those stands. A game one win when the crowd is such a motivating factor can really skew the way a series goes. It can really affect not only your personal motivation to win the series, but also just how it feels to get a kill, how it feels to win the next game, to take the battle back to your opponents.
And especially when it's such a close game, because you feel in a game like this that the better team will be the one to win. And when you're the one, if you lose this game as Fnatic, you have Soul, you have Oscar winning. There's so many reasons for you to doubt yourself coming into the next game. And the same for KC. They had a great laning phase. Caliste got strong. It's just hard. It's really hard when you lose a game like this to keep being confident. So it's a huge, huge game for whoever can take it.
The items are starting to come in across the board here. Fnatic, 2 Zhonyas on both carries, going to make them very difficult to try and deal with. But honestly, I'm starting to look at guys like Vladi. If he can finish that Rabadon's death cap, that is going to be such a massive upgrade for his damage in this next team fight, and may be the difference maker as to whether KC can blow up some of the members of Fnatic.
Vladi is pumping. Like, you look at the enemy team as well, I do not see many true tanks. I see a Galio, who is very tanky. I see an Alistar, who has a Redemption and a Kindle Gem and a Cloth Armor. I'm sorry, a little raggedy bit of cloth is not going to protect you when that shockwave comes out. It is going to be really important to watch where that ball goes, where Vladi is able to find his marks, because so often we have seen games decided by a shockwave. We named them 3,000 elo shockwaves, right? They exist. For Fnatic, if they can find presence around this dragon, which they are doing currently, getting that vision in, that is their key objective. Set up, get towards the Elder, look to pull KC into darkness, into Fog of War.
But that's the problem, trying to set yourself up as KC in this area of the map is so dangerous. Fnatic can be lurking in any of these bushes, and KC, they poke their noses in, they don't get bitten, they want to try and get a little bit more.
It's so difficult. They have to play this slow. Razork with a fantastic flank.
Poby stepping forward, Razor's coming in as well. Poby goes to the engagements of Vladi, killer instinct in as well. But Fnatic is separated. Vladi down low, gets the redemption. Perfect execution by the Orianna, and the shockwave does nothing. A hero's entrance from the potent Poby as he dives in towards that backline. Canna forced away past Faker. Will find him a small degree of safety, but Poby's having none of it. They chase him down. Oscarinin flashing for it. Yike trying to get the slow onto him. Another taunt onto Targamas down towards the bottom side. Targamas goes down. KC only have 2 left alive.
Fnatic remember spring, and they say that will not happen again as they march towards the Nexus and take game number 1.
Vamos Fnatic! It's Oscar and Razork that keep finding the engages back to back to back that will secure Fnatic game number 1.
A superlative display from the Spanish squadron for Fnatic. Oscar and Razork on their backs. This was built. Fnatic at the top of the mountain. KC beginning to fall down.
What a game.
Incredible stuff from Fnatic. It looked like KC got off to a decent start, but it was Oscarinin controlling that top side of the map